Now, many of you may not even know that we do have a Farm Rescue Foundation. You know, I briefly mentioned it, and you maybe thought, well, you know, I've never heard of the foundation. I've heard of Farm Rescue. That's what we've heard about. But we have a foundation. There is a Farm Rescue Foundation, and it does things or will start doing things to help farm families in other ways besides planting and harvesting crops. And you're going to hear about that more in just a second here. But we have, I want to mention first, there are a few companies that have already put in some donations to the Farm Rescue Foundation, and that is Hefty Seed, Monsanto, North Star Genetics, Fezidin Co-op Association, and also a few farmers also have put in, like the Seehofer family, who we helped 4 years ago. They want to leave a legacy to help other farm families, and they put in some funding to Farm Rescue, and you know, didn't forget about helping other farm families in the future to kind of pay it forward. And I have here tonight Jason Anker. Jason, would you come forward? So Jason is on the board of directors of the Farm Rescue Foundation, and he works out of Minneapolis. And I'll let him tell you a little bit about himself. And he's been on the board here now for a couple years, and he's going to explain the Farm Rescue Foundation to you a little more thoroughly. So Jason, please welcome Jason Anker. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. You know, some of you may know I actually, I'm an attorney down in Minneapolis, and it's not very often, you know, normally when an attorney gets up to speak, you kind of hear the boos and the muttering from the crowd. So when I get an applause, it's kind of nice once in a while, so I appreciate that. You know, about 2 years ago, I heard about Farm Rescue from a couple of friends of mine. They had told me, you know, this is something that is important and something that you should get to know about and try to get involved with. And I gave Bill Gross a call, and I realized pretty quickly this is a big ideas guy. You know, he's got about a million things going in his head, and usually when you talk to a big ideas guy, nobody follows through with it like Bill does. So 2 years ago, I met Bill, and he told me a little bit about Farm Rescue, and I realized at that time that this was such an important organization that for a guy like me, it's important that, you know, I try to give a little bit back. So it's a humbling thing to be involved in the organization. It's a humbling thing to be able to help. Certainly the volunteers themselves are the most wonderful people in the world, and I think the volunteers and the sponsors themselves, I know we've given them a round of applause, but I think they deserve another round of applause. So thank you, volunteers, thank you. So Bill, being the big ideas guy, and then comes to me about a year and a half ago, and says, you know, Jason, Farm Rescue, what we do is we provide immediate help to those family farms that need help, but I want to leave a legacy. I want to do something more. And of course, when Bill comes to me and starts talking about those things, I get a little scared at first because remember, he's the big ideas guy, but he said, what can we do to leave a legacy for those family farms that are in need? Of course, Farm Rescue provides the immediate help, but how do we make sure that we leave that lasting legacy for a long time, forever? And he came up with the idea of the Farm Rescue Foundation. Now, this is a relatively new thing that we've started, but the purpose of it is not just to provide the immediate help, but to provide some lasting help for those family farms that need the assistance and they require the assistance. You know, Farm Rescue and the volunteers go out, they help in the field, they help planting, they help harvesting every year, but that's not the end of it. Many times when Farm Rescue piles up and they head down the road, those same folks still need help. And it can be in the form of many things, usually financial assistance. Whether it's putting a lift on a tractor to make sure that somebody can get up into his tractor and get things planted or get into the field. Or if it's a natural disaster or a tornado or flooding, as we're all familiar with up here, to provide them to help to get their barn put back into place. The purpose of the Farm Rescue Foundation is to help those families through the years so that they can have that kind of assistance, to provide the lift when somebody needs it, to help them raise that barn after a natural disaster. So the purpose of the foundation is to not only help those people, but to provide the financial assistance that's needed in order for them to continue with their family farm. So what we're asking for you folks tonight is, you'll see, if you look down, you'll have a little brochure. I'd ask that you all please take a look at it. And as you look at it, of course, Farm Rescue and the volunteers and what they do, they help provide that immediate help. But we would also ask that you think of leaving that legacy, helping the foundation with those folks to buy the lift, to buy the automated tarps, to help that small family farm when the barn goes down, to help them out financially to put that farm back up and get them back on their feet again. Now, you've listed in there a number of ways that you can help, but what I'm asking for you folks to look at tonight is to think about leaving that legacy. Helping us out with a small financial donation, $1, $5, $20. We all know that anything can help. Obviously, everybody here is in the room has the biggest hearts in the world, and I've learned that over the last couple of years. But of course, anything that you can do to help is always going to be appreciated. So we'd ask that you look at it, take a look at the brochure, and certainly consider leaving a legacy for the Farm Rescue Foundation. Thank you.
First off, on behalf of all the sponsors, or excuse me, the volunteers, thank you to the sponsors for giving us the equipment, the very, very good equipment to play with and to have fun with driving and operating. So thank you, RDO and countless others. My name is Levi. This is my lovely wife, Carol, and Lincoln. I have the honor of serving with Carol and Lincoln, not all the time, but a lot of the time in the field. My sweet wife runs the combine and the semi, and I'm very honored to work alongside of her. I'm relatively new to Farm Rescue. This is only my second year with them. I've fallen in love. I love to volunteer, and I love to serve God and other people, and I love to farm. And I was just so excited to find out about it 3 years ago, and to be able to help starting 2 springs ago, 2 years ago. It's a great organization. It is an honor and a pleasure to serve with and under Bill, and he's kind of a big brother figure to me, I guess, and I really enjoy this organization, and it's just, there's just no words to express how much I love doing this, and thank you to all of you guys for coming out tonight.
Can you tell me a little bit?
Sorry.
Can you tell me a little bit where you're from?
I'm sorry, yes.
What you do
I'm sorry, I don't listen very well, sorry. I'm from Sioux City, Iowa, wife and I, Carol, and I'm an engineer for the railroad. Very proud to be NSF as a sponsor, very grateful for that. I enjoy my job, and I'm grateful for the time that they allow me to have off.
Hi, my name is Carol Whalinga, and you heard what I do from him, but we're from Sioux City, and I just wanted to say that Farm Rescue has really proven to be a blessing to me, to be able to serve and to meet the families, and when you leave each case, you're part of their family, really. And every family just loves Lincoln and loves to babysit and spoil him, so we really get to know the families pretty well. But thank you.
And Carol, like Levi said, Carol has her CDL also. She drives the semi-truck, she hauls grain, she drives the combine, moves the headers around, does everything. They work as a family team, and matter of fact, they helped at every case, they harvested at every case in Iowa this year. So they were like a family team, mobile rolling mean machine helping farm families. So thank you very much.
Charlie Barch from Minot, and I've been volunteering for 5 years.
Sherry Schaefer, Greenville, Illinois, and my first volunteer experience was spring of 2011.
I'm Win Rasmussen. I've been a volunteer since 2005. Bill said I could volunteer and ride a tractor, and he let me ride the tractor for 8 minutes. So that's about 1 minute per year. Thanks, Bill.
Charlie Hardy, Wahpeton. I've been with Farm Rescue for 5 years. I'm Kenneth Kyle. I'm from Southern Kentucky, and this was my first year in the spring.
My name's Terrence Brock. I'm from Valley City, North Dakota, and this was my first harvest. I have a CDL and a clean driving record, and I think that's in demand.
I'm Gary Deckert. I'm from Bismarck. This is my first year, and I don't have a job. But I'm a retired truck driver, and Pete was instrumental in convincing me to volunteer for Farm Rescue because of my CDL, and I want to thank Bill for the great organization and the farmers. It's just amazing the thanks that we get. One of the first jobs that Rita asked me to do was to take the Farm Rescue truck to Martinsville, Minnesota for the Potato Days Parade. So we had to have the truck washed, and I'm in Fargo at the petrol truck stop, and Larry Lyer come walking up to me. Never met the man, never seen him, didn't know what he wanted. He come and thanked me for volunteering, and I thought that was pretty nice, and he told me his story, and when I heard that, I said, man, this job is just rewarding.
I'm Reuben Lichty from Jamestown, and I've known Bill even long before he began with the Farm Rescue. I've been on the board since the beginning of the organization, and he's got lots of energy. I wish I had some of it.
I'm Clarence Coos from Jamestown. I've been with Farm Rescue for 5 years.
I'm Rod Eckroth from Bismarck, and this is my first year, and so far it's been a wonderful experience.
Jay Shep, I've been Farm Rescue for 3 years from Bismarck.
Pete Von Bank from Washburn. There's nothing greater for me than to pull in the yard and see some of the faces of these families. It's tremendous.
Very well said, Pete. My name is Ted Smith, and from Flanders, South Dakota, and this is my second year.
Walt Klunt from Jamestown, and I've been with him since 2006.
Alvin Hepper from Bismarck, and this is my first year helping him, combine operator.
Warren Zach Michael from Belfort, I've been with him 6 years. Had a lot of fun too.
I'm Dustin Lean. I've been with this crew since 2009, and I'm on the board of directors. I probably put more time in there than I do helping in the field. But the comment I'd like to make with a lot of these faces up here that you see and these stories that you hear is that these gentlemen don't come for 1 year and go home. They come back year after year after year. And some of these faces who have been up here since the beginning, we really have a lot to be thankful for.
I'm Gene Spitzke from Belfort. Warren and I volunteered 6 years ago. We signed up for 2 weeks. 6 years later, we're still doing it, and I think we're getting more satisfaction enjoying doing it than the farmers that we help. It's been a wonderful blessing for us.
I already did. Your turn.
My turn? This is my turn. Dave Setti from Grafton, Wisconsin. This is 5, 6 years, something like that. Thank you to, first and foremost, all the farmers. I know it's hard for each and every one of you to say, please, or even ask. It's an honor to come and help you guys and see the relief on your faces after we get there. Sometimes there's a little hardship between us, but usually when we're done, we're all friends, and friends that have been made forever.
I'm Tyler Lautenschlager. I live in Bismarck. I've been with Farm Rescue since 2010.
Sean Sitma from Minot. Typically, most of my stuff is done behind the scenes, but they have actually put me in the driver's seat of a tractor and a combine a couple of different years. But most of my stuff is actually done with the video work behind the scenes, the public service announcements and whatnot. But got a chance to climb back in the combine again this year for a couple of days, but been with them since 2006.
All right, there's a few that have been a little humble here. Well, all of them have, but I want to point out also that all our volunteers we are very, very thankful for, and there's many, many more that have not been able to make it here tonight, but these are some of the core volunteers. They are local volunteers, many of them, not all. Some come all the way from Kentucky like you heard there and other places, but Pete Von Bank here, he's our semi-driver here. He saw that combine out there. He positioned that there, and he's hauled equipment all the way down to Iowa and back, and he's from Washburn, and moved a lot of equipment to a lot of different states for us here in North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Montana. And Charlie Barch. Charlie is from Minot, retired farmer himself, and he has headed up several teams for harvest, for planting. He is very experienced, of course, does an excellent job. There isn't a farm family here that says they don't love Charlie Barch, that they have such a good time, and he is remembered at all the families and has always done an excellent, excellent job for us and goes above and beyond. And I think all of us would say that about Charlie Barch, and I just can't say enough. Yeah, so thank you, Charlie and Pete. And there's a few more here. I'm kind of just talking. Everyone's valuable, but there's a few I'm just saying that have been with us a long, long time. I just want to give a special thanks. Charlie Hardy, also from the Wahpeton Breckenridge area here. He has harvested and planted many, many cases, and has helped us in fundraising and also with heading up teams also. And so thank you very much, Charlie. And I'm trying to think of Gene, of course. Gene and Warren. So Gene, they're quite a team together. They hardly separate. They always work together because they live right next to each other up there by Belfour and Keith, North Dakota. And there isn't almost a case that they don't go to together, and have helped us out for many, many years. And thank you, Gene and Warren. So. Thank you. And Walter Klunt, he's driven semi for us also, moved equipment, and went down and moved hopper bottoms for us and various things. And Walter has helped for many, many years also. So I want to thank you also, Walter. But all of them are very hard-working volunteers, and we owe a big debt of gratitude to all of them. And I thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. So let's again give them a big round of applause. Thank you. Dan and Rose Dozenrod are from Windmere, North Dakota, and come on up here. It's a family. We harvested corn for them just recently, and Dan had an unfortunate accident. I'll let you explain the rest. So here's Dan and Rose Dozenrod. Thank you. Speaking of that, you can use that if you want. We'll turn off the microphone.
Well, I just feel like I'm one of the luckiest guys alive right now because, 4.5 months ago, I broke my neck, and it could easily have been much, much worse. It looks like I'm going to have a 95% recovery. And let's see, several things that I'm really lucky about. Lucky to have a spouse, Rose, who took care of me because I was in pretty bad shape when I got out of the hospital. It took a lot of extra care and time. And I'm also lucky I have a young son, 23 years old. He was willing and able to do the extra work when I was gone. And I guess I'm really lucky because of Farm Rescue. I guess I never worked with them before or knew anybody who did. I know an earlier speaker said it's kind of an unreality that if you go back to 2005, but I always liked that one movie about the Princess Bride, and they used the word inconceivable. And that's the word I would use if I had to back up to 2005. It's kind of inconceivable that you could actually organize something like this and pull it off. I mean, it's all the time for Bill and the board members and all the volunteers, and it takes a lot of effort for everyone to work together and make this work, and I'm just very fortunate.
And I'm his wife, Rose, and I was just asked to make a few comments about the volunteers that we had. And first I want to say, if you were at our place and we haven't had the chance to visit with you yet, please make sure that you do take the time to connect with us, because I'm not very good at finding faces in a crowd. Some of the things I want to mention are, I'm thankful for the sponsors. And if the sponsors wonder, what happens to this equipment when it's out in the field, I can share with you the things that I observed, which were very positive. One morning, we had brunch at our place, and the volunteers that were able to make it were there. And shortly after that, I had to make a trip out to the field. And I get out there and I see the hood on the semi is up, and I'm thinking, well, something must be wrong. Well, it turned out that the guys were just getting the combine going, and instead of sitting there killing time, one of the truck drivers was actually doing inspections, checking the tire pressure, checking the oil and water, and that kind of thing. That was pretty impressive to me. And also, before one of the volunteers got on one of our tractors and the grain cart, before he did that, he checked with our son to make sure that it was operated in the way that he wanted it operated. And that, to me, is very valuable. And the last thing I have to share is, as the crew was leaving, they were cinching the combine down on the trailer, getting ready for transport. And it was Kenneth and Matt and Gary. And I don't believe the three of them had ever worked together before. But if you would have stopped out there, it looked like they'd been doing it for the last 20 years together. So they did an excellent job of handling the equipment. And we appreciate Farm Rescue and everything that they've done for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Dan and Rose. And Dan didn't tell about his accident. I won't go into it too much, but it was an unfortunate accident of, he was up on a semi-truck and had apparently a different pair of glasses on, some bifocals. I haven't warned anybody, anyone who does. I guess it's a little tricky to, when you get some new ones, to see where your step is and so on. And anyway, missed something where he was going to put his foot on, and basically just went off in midair off the semi and to the ground and broke his neck, and it was a kind of a clean break, some vertebrae, and so his Rose came out and found him there and called the ambulance, and there's a bit more to it, but that's what happened. So he's lucky to be alive, lucky not to be paralyzed, and recovering nicely. And we're very grateful for that.
Hi, we're from Balfour. Warren and Jean were two of the volunteers that came to our place, and they're neighbors of ours too, so it was really nice to have them there. And Bill Karamawiti was there. And Laura was hit by a pickup. She was run over, her right side, and it fractured her hip and her pelvis, and separated her leg completely at the knee. It didn't break her knee, but it stretched and broke or tore 3 ligaments, and there's nerve damage. And but she's on the road to, they figure, 100% recovery. And then I'll let Ralph tell about what it meant to him to have Farm Rescue come with having 2 of the truck drivers out of business. So.
Yeah, well, on June 30th, when this accident happened, we run a cow-calf operation, and we farm a fair amount around, and we're just a family farm, so all of a sudden there's, my daughter's in the hospital, my wife's with her, and it's just me and my son, and we got all this work that needs to be done. And well, we had some good neighbors and some of my family members came and helped, and then it came to harvest. Well, I got a call from Farm Rescue from Rita, and she had, one of my agronomists had contacted her and said this family could use help. And Rita was really good to work with, and I talked to Jim, and then Bill called me, and you need to get your paperwork in, and we'll take care of you. And they were great to work with. And
my wife had actually been diagnosed with cancer in 2011. And we went through 2011 with the old school help from neighbors and people around our community, our church, different people, and they came over and planted most of our crop. It was an awesome feeling, but it also, in my heart, knowing that how crucial timing is in farming, I felt almost a burden that they were over at my place while their crops were sitting idle. Their tractors were at our place instead of doing their own. So this past year, when my neighbor mentioned Farm Rescue, it was about that time my wife went in the hospital, and I knew without a doubt that it was something I needed to try and explore. And like it said, I put in the application, and it was they came out. We were fortunate because of my wife's illness and a little bit slower load this fall. They were able to come back and harvest for us as well, which normally they don't do. But as my wife said, it was a blessing because, you know, planting and harvesting is one thing, but as all you farmers know, getting everything ready for that really is what takes the most time. And it was time that I didn't have, and my wife needed me, my kids needed me, so you're kind of torn with what to do. Someone asked me if, they said, my wife ended up in the hospital a couple of different times this spring, but the day before Farm Rescue was coming to plant, she went in to have a port placed for her chemo treatments, and she ended up having a seizure. And the day they came, she actually was admitted into the intensive care unit. This fall, when they came to Combine, which was this day that you saw that interview, later that day she was taken by ambulance. She had another seizure and ended up in intensive care. Someone said, you probably don't like Farm Rescue because it kind of is a bad luck charm, it looks like. But I told them they couldn't be more wrong. And my wife would have been the first to admit how thankful she was that I was able to be there for her during this time, rather than working in the field. Or, you know, she liked having me around to help. She was getting IV treatments at home. I was her doctor, I was her nurse. She had a strong faith in the Lord, and her favorite verse was Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, which is trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. But in all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll direct your paths. We pray that they would come, and they did in the spring. This fall, I was getting my combine ready, and Bill called out of the blue. And this was just a few short weeks before my wife ended up in the hospital again. I just can't describe how it made us feel to get that call. The ease that it put in my mind, knowing that they were coming again, made it much easier for me. The last time they were there, the day of the video when she went in, she never did get out of the hospital. She passed away 10 days after that. And so needless to say, farming wasn't something I thought about much this past summer. And it's because of Farm Rescue that was possible. The same day that they were out, Successful Farming had a satellite reporter there doing an interview. She sent me that, what's going to come in the magazine. And it's about Farm Rescue, but they interviewed me and the kids and Stacy. And you know, she sent me it, and I got to see what my wife had said that day that I had not heard before, and I didn't get to hear her say it to me, but, you know, she was just so thankful because she called me her doctor, her nurse, her helper in the house, and Farm Rescue was what enabled me to be able to do that, and that she was thankful for, as was I. The blessings, thanks isn't enough, and it never will be enough, but the volunteers, don't ever think that your effort is not important, because it is. The slideshow that was shown earlier, there's a picture from the day they were there combining our soybeans. And it's the little boy that looks like, with the hat, the Farm Rescue hat with his ears down. Looks like he maybe just did something wrong, which he probably did. But he got to, the day before that, they pulled in to do brought the combine and header, and it was Charlie and Pete, Charlie Birch and Pete that came. And my 3-year-old, he always had questions for everybody that came, and he likes to talk. And Charlie asked me that the next day. He said, "Your son's not shy, is he?" And I said, "No." And he said, every question my son would ask was followed and answered. He would ask another question. But he got to ride with Charlie in the combine, and the night they came to deliver the combine, we were going to bed that night, and he asked, "Where's Charlie?" And I told him he went to the hotel to sleep, and I said, "He'll be back tomorrow." And the next day he got to ride with Charlie. And even just a week ago he asked, "Where's Charlie at?" And so you definitely made an impression, Charlie, and my little boy will remember you for a long time. And I think it was important for our kids to see there are people in the world that are so good and are willing to help when you're in need. And it's a lesson that they learned that will stick with them the rest of their life. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for sharing that, and it is just such a situation that he has 5 young children there that you saw in the video. He has his hands full, and have his wife, his mate and mother pass on, and a very difficult situation, and we had some extra time this fall here at Spare Combine, and so we harvested there. We were in the process of harvesting when this all happened, like he said. So I would also like to mention, though, that there was a couple cases we did after that, and Matt right away stepped up to the plate. You know, I called him one day and I said, you know, we're a little bit short on volunteers, and do you know anyone in your neighborhood there that could help us out just to finish up on this last case? And he said, well, you know, call you back in a few hours and so on. And he was checking around in the neighborhood and such, and he called me back and he says, I found someone to help you out. And I said, great, you know, great. Who would that be? He says, that would be me. He says, I'm gonna come. And we were harvesting at night, corn, and we needed some people to run the equipment at night. And he says, I'm gonna come and run the equipment all night. And he did do that. And thank you, Matt. So he's right away thinking of other people, and even in the midst of his challenges going on and such. So thank you again, Matt. Thank you.